Love it. Okay, so let's just say hello, welcome everyone. Glad you're part of the weekly briefing today. If you've been part of the last 2 minutes, you can tell that Val and I have something in common, just like the desire to kind of learn something more. So for Val to volunteer her time today and give us some insights of what's going on in the AI space, but also the broadcast space, the transition that you've gone through is going to be really interesting. But let's just give people a 12-second to 1 minute background of just jobs that you've had, because I want to use that as a setup for some of the conversation we're having.
Sure. I feel like I've been really blessed because when I first started out in Los Angeles, I've been here almost 30 years, believe it or not, and I started on the agency side. So I worked in an agency that touched all the studios all over town. That agency is no longer, so no need to promote it here. But I was there 7 years and worked my way up as a young designer into senior art director, doing comps, pulling all-nighters, doing the whole thing, then worked up to studio manager, senior art director. And then when I was there, I was like, okay, this rat race, this whole thing is hard, right? So then I saw an opportunity. A friend of mine was over at NBC and said, "Hey Val, there's a creative director role over here. Do you want to come on over here?" And I'm like, "Yeah, this would be awesome." I mean, NBC was still must-see TV at the time. And I was like, "Yeah, I want to go." And I think Will and Grace was on and all of those. I was like, so I went and interviewed, got the job, and it ended up being a group creative director job. So I had a whole team under me. And at NBC, we were everything like what an in-house agency. I don't know if everybody remembers the in-house agency was called the NBC agency. And I was on the off-air side. So Vince and John were the head of it all, and they did all the, everybody did the on air, we were doing the off air. So I did that for 10 years and then went from there, left because they're having layoffs, but I raised my hand. I'm like, okay, I'm ready to do something new. I saw what was happening out into the streaming space, took a little bit of time off, and then went over to Amazon, and I was there almost 9 years and was got in pretty much within the first couple of years. So they had the first two launches of shows. I got there in the season 2 of Transparent and rode that ride for the 9 years after that. So it was pretty cool. So I've seen, and at Amazon, we were able to work with agencies all over the world. So I had the hybrid of doing some in-house hands-on, but mostly managing 360 campaign, not just off air, and doing the whole thing. So the evolution of my career has been really fun to see every aspect inside of how a, a, a show, a film, a special, whatever it might be, the road that it takes all the way from concept to customer or to audience.
I'm going to summarize it like this. You've pretty much rode out two golden eras. The must-see TV era of NBC, and it's Will and Grace, but isn't this the Friends era to the Seinfeld era? Like you were kind of at the
Well,
center of the universe in a way.
Yeah, I
In
came
that
in
era.
right when Friends was going off. So I had one more season left. And so our team helped roll that off the air. So we did the finale. And then I got to launch The Office and 30 Rock and Friday Night Lights and Parenthood, just to name a few, Parks and Rec. I mean, so many. It was like
Oh
I
yeah.
think it was 250 series I did when I was at NBC. So it was a lot.
Yeah, so you get that, you kind of get that boom. And then to get into streaming, when you got into streaming, it kind of was defining itself. And there you were again, kind of at the center of it.
Yeah.
Um, I'm gonna now we're gonna ride your golden coattails into this next evolution that's taking place, because I feel like we're just in a new beginning of something. Well, we all know we're at the beginning of something that's completely going to take over, and it's going to have its own kind of stride to it. Has anyone ever talked about your addiction to these golden arch careers, and you're just needing to be part of the next big thing that's coming up because you are jumping in with both feet in the AI space and what it means to be in that and still be in entertainment marketing?
Yeah, it's so funny to say Golden Arch. I hope that that's what happens at the end of this one, but we'll see because it's still hit or miss, right? But it's interesting that you say that because, and I think you and I talked about this before, that I might have some futurist stuff inside of me and how I think about things, and I have a tendency to observe I listen a lot and observe. Like I'm not always a talker, and I like being in the back of the room. I like listening and hearing, and I observe also outside of whenever I have the bandwidth to be able to take in whatever is going on. And I kind of see the patterns, and then I start to connect those dots to create the where the end is going to be and where it's going to go. And I can kind of see how to, and then I also have this efficiency gene inside of me. So I'm like, whatever I can do to get from A to Z faster, more efficiently, and more effectively to save money, where a lot of creatives don't think that way. And I've always thought about how do I do this better, right? And
Mhm.
also be able to deliver excellence on top of that without having to cut corners. So all of that combined, when AI came into the picture, phew, I mean, I was like, this is like major magic wand all around, is how I kind of saw it.
So I want to talk just real quickly because I think a lot of us know that it's coming, but we don't necessarily know how to pivot into it. There seems to be, I don't know, bias against it because it's seems to be taking over positions or doing work that current people are doing. There seems to be like ethical questions about it. Are we doing something or using a body of work that isn't ours, or even like legal questions? So there seems to be a little bit of hesitation to that. One is I'm curious if you had that yourself. And then also, like, do you think now that you know what you know, is that those legitimate concerns?
Yeah, I'm very much aware of how important IP is, right? And how important it is to protect whatever it is that you're creating, which is one of the reasons why I've been a little hesitant to even get out into the world when I'm working on the side, which we'll get into a little bit later, even more. But I have figured out how to leverage these tools in a way where they help my core talent shine even brighter. And it allows me to be able to tap into, it's almost like having a muse, right? Or I know people are using Copilot and some of these others, but I feel like it's a full-on muse in the sense that I'll just start bantering, brainstorming, going back and forth. I mean, ChatGPT is my drug of choice right now, and I'm in all of the LLMs, but that because that one knows me the best. And I am able to get ideas that are just, I mean, mind blowing in a way that I would have never been able to reach before. Or I would have to hire an agency to just do that focus time to get there, right? And my goal usually is and I try to figure out the fastest way to get the flow because all that, the blank screen, the blank page, all of that stuff is so overwhelming for us as creatives that you really want to get there. And also just to wrap your head around how you want to uh, promote, create whatever the idea is to be able to make sure it's actually going to be sticky, right? When and work and deliver the ROI. So that's where I feel like AI is the perfect way to be able to bridge all of those things.
It's so interesting the conversation elements of ChatGPT. And I'm gonna guess you use it the same way as I do. So I could be in the car and hit the little voice button thing and then do the dialogue processing. And for whatever reason, when there's a voice talking back at me, it triggers the next question. And what's very nice is it's not a human, so I could cut it off.
Right.
Stop and then and keep playing. But because I'm more interested in what the questions my mind is coming up with, I find that the questions are harder than the answers sometimes. So the finding those questions in process is a very like one of the benefits of it. But specifically, you're not just in the creative execution element. You actually work further upstream in the strategy elements there. So I'm guessing tapping into those bigger questions and get immediate research, having some answers defined right away allows for the strategy elements to play themselves out, not just quicker, but deeper.
Yeah, for sure. I think I saw that very early on, and one of the tools that I wanted to figure out is there's so many pain points as a creative kind of being in the middle, right? Between the executives or the leadership, however you want to quote it, wherever your hierarchy is in your group, and getting the work done. And then also working with all the hands-on creatives that are actually executing it, getting it in there. And I wanted to figure out how to make that process streamlined and a lot more effective and efficient. And so that everybody has a voice at the table because everyone's been talking about having a voice at the table for so long. But I feel like, again, that's where AI kind of comes into play. So with all of that experience, pain, and challenges through the years, I came up with Maxx Strata, which is MAXS Strata, and it's maximum strategy. So it's a tool that I created as a custom ChatGPT, and it literally allows me to create that creative brief, strategic creative brief that includes customer insights. Everything a creative brief would be way more than the basic ones because I think a lot of people don't even know what a good brief is, right? And so it's a lot of deeper dive. And I learned that actually at Amazon was the best. I mean, a lot of people talk bad about Amazon, but I actually loved it. I loved being there. I loved being a part of it because I learned things that I would never have before. And at NBC, we didn't really do strategy. It really was everything was spaghetti on the wall. Let's see what sticks, what feels good, what,
Yeah.
how it's feeling. And so this allowed me to be able to make that bridge with Max to be able to incorporate all of that. And so I built that with it in mind. And then, as we all know, the 4 quadrant marketing situation, how you kind of do a 360 campaign. Well, I'm like, I also thought about, okay, when you're doing all the personality assessments, you have certain personalities of how you're working with your teammates, you're working with other agencies, all of that in it. So I kind of built and wrote my own 4 quadrants. And then, so that helps me with another app that I created called PathLumina that allows people to figure out who their personal brand is, how they are, how they show up in the world, how they communicate. But then I also started folding that into Max because I was like, this is kind of brilliant to be able to say, all right, this campaign needs to touch, it's a broad campaign, right? I need to touch all the audience members. So I want each of my ideas, once I get the brief in a good place and I go to the ideation space, because then that's part of the process as well as the second step, once the first part is blessed. And I was like, I want an idea that hits every quadrant so
Mm.
that the audience will be attracted to this spot, to this key art, to this social content, to the experiential, whatever we're creating the space for people to come in real life, all of that so that we know that they're going to be attracted to, and then FOMO is created, right? So incorporating that within it allowed these ideas to come out of the box in a big way. It was really
Yeah.
amazing.
Really amazing. And again, like just the speed that it can do it, sometimes not accurate, but it doesn't have to, like if I'm brainstorming with a bunch of humans, it's not accurate either. It's
Right.
speculating and you kind of gotta dive in deeper. Can I just ask you just a really simple question? Because I'm gonna guess there are a few people that are listening right now, or as you talk, I actually might want to convert this to a podcast because I think where this conversation is going to go is interesting to just listen to on the car where people are driving. But just a really simple question. You had this epiphany when you got to Amazon instead of NBC, the power of the brief. Can you just tell people what a brief is and why that made such a difference? Like what's the actual benefit of it and what is it composed of? And I'm going to say this, I think a lot of people are listening might have the benefit of brief, but never been in the room to make the brief. So someone's giving them a brief or telling them something, but I don't think you know what it takes to make it. Can you kind of explain that element to it? Because I want to ask you about Max.
Yeah. Um,
What's that?
so this was so cool. Here's another little side antidote into all this. I'm dyslexic, so reading and writing is so painful and hard for me. And when I was at Amazon, that was really scary. I was like, they're never going to hire me because everything's about the 1 pager and the 6 pager for every single project you work on. How am I going to work here? How am I going to do this? And luckily, I was on a team that saw my creative side, and then I learned it as I went through the process. And it was definitely hard. I definitely felt the shame and the pushback and the, like, you're not good enough feelings, all that stuff as I was learning how to do it. But I just dove in and learned it and it's so succinct and simple. You could, I mean, I'm not going to go through the process of it now, but you can just Google it. There's tons of, or ChatGPT say, hey, will you create a 1 pager or a 6 pager in Amazon form, and it'll do it for you in seconds. And it'll put it all together. Whereas then you didn't have that. You had to write it. It was painstaking. You had to go. And what it is that before you even start a project, you have to get all of the core, you start with the customer. Always start with the customer and you work backwards. So every brief is about that. And then you talk about it in a room. Everybody gets that brief in a room. Everybody reads it in the room. So you're in a room with like 20 to 50 people, depending on whatever you're working on, and everyone's sitting in the room completely quiet, reading this brief together, and then you discuss it and you know exactly what you're going to go do next. I'm like, I don't know if this is the most efficient use of time, but let's try it. And it actually works. It works really well because then everybody knows what the guardrails are, where we want to go, what needs to shift or change, and then you bring that whole mind meld of everybody in the room, and you're able to then go and divide and conquer once that's all blessed and in a good space, because that way the folks, you're not micromanaging, and all the people who are great at social, great at motion, great at trailers, great at key art, whatever your expertise is, PR, whatever it is, go and then focus on that, and you come back and everything bellies back up to that brief. That way, that when you're in a room and you're talking about it, all you do is you bring the brief back up and say, does this align with the brief? Or did you guys go off? Or did you go off and, hey, that kind of makes sense, but then there's still parts of the brief that's here, right? Because you still want that flexibility to do that. So to me, that's where that magic came in. And the alignment happens so much faster, less churn, less subjectivity, a lot more objectivity. So nobody, a senior person couldn't come in and say, I can't stand green. Why did you use green? And then you have to start all over and waste another $100,000. And that wasn't ever communicated. It's all communicated throughout the whole process.
Yeah, so it doesn't take all the creative out of it. That's what I think a lot of people get confused about what a brief is like it's already been determined. There's no creative left. It really just puts the guardrails. And we got to be honest, all projects have guardrails. If nothing, it's a guardrail of budget and schedule. So to have a little bit more understanding in a brief to give you that. And I think the real winners are the ones that take the brief and are inspired by it because those are true. Now, what can I make from it? So that's the power of the brief. That's really like the key aspect of it. And then it turns a very reactionary process, a very proactive process, and it turns what could be, a confrontation into collaboration because there are things you're doing together with your creative team as well as senior members too. So there's no misunderstanding or hijacking of the project later on. So
Yeah, exactly. But the other thing that it does, it opens up more space for the brilliant ideas to come into play. Because a lot of times if the creative director is really good, I mean, I don't know how many of your folks that are on here have worked with anyone at Amazon or even Netflix because they do it well too, that, certain people have learned this, some haven't, they're still learning it. So they may not be able to kick off the teams in the best way. So the art of writing that brief is it's hard to learn too. And I felt like I would say the last 4 years, I was really getting good at it and having this really robust brief. And I would include thought starters too. I wouldn't actually execute. I might do like a little scrap here, a little there, starting to use Midjourney at the end just to kind of flesh that out a little bit. But at the most part, I'm just trying to just kick everybody and inspire them, as you said, have that so they're excited, like they can't wait to dive in. And then you're going to have over and beyond. You're not going to get in that low hanging fruit, all that wasted time that everyone spins on and then pitches it, and you're like, you just throw half of it out anyway. That way they can really get to the core of some really great work.
And that's the epiphany, isn't it? The epiphany isn't, it's just heavy work to make people happy and I don't know, prove that you have a good concept. It actually is the core of inspiration because the permission's then granted. Hey, understand this, and then go do what you do. Your creative mind, put it to work and help us find the solution, solve this problem.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that I understand that, here's what I'm curious about and what if this is how you see it. So it feels like Steve Kazanjian was on this conversation last week. And one of the things that we kind of processed was, in the old infrastructure of a client, you might have a marketing team and then a separate silo is the creative team and a separate silo is the ad sales team and so on. And all of that is a lot of work. So you kind of need to dedicate yourself to that work to be good at it. And you can't be distracted if you're an ad salesperson to do the creative and so on, even though eventually they have to come together. It feels like with the efficiency of technology, one person can possibly now be a creative thinker and put a brief together, have the marketing brief put together, if it works the way it's supposed to. And it feels like the creative person needs to learn this. Hey, by the way, your client should be briefing you or have a brief And if not, maybe this is your opportunity to actually dive into this and be part of the strategic conversation, not just wait downstream for someone to tell you what to do and what color to make it, but you actually can learn, lean in, and have more influence and find even more creative freedom in that. Is that what you're seeing? Like the same efficiency and therefore tools in everyone's hand, more opportunity for everyone to take advantage of it?
Yeah, 100%. And as a matter of fact, it's so funny. You just described the webinar I did at the beginning of the year. That's exactly what it was about. It was called
You guys should
Create.
do it together next year.
Yeah, it was called Create Like You Mean It. It's still available. It's on demand if anybody wants it. We can send out links later. But that's the core. I told my story. I told that aha moment, and I attracted creators to it. I was like, because it's so important. Creators, don't be afraid of AI. Dive into AI because it's going to allow you to better communicate with the marketing team, better communicate with the PR team, better communicate all up and down. And plus, you're going to have a lot more. Whenever you're pitching an idea, you're going to be able to do it within the context of really what is meaningful, so that you're able to deliver those results. And I think that's the other thing at Amazon. The times when it was really great is when we had small pods. And instead of doing siloed, creative is here, like you just said, and having them all separate, like NBC was very separate too. And we had a few times when we all kind of intermixed. There's a few years in there too. It was pretty great that when Adam Stowski was there, actually it was really great because he got us all together. So those were really great times. And then at Amazon, the same thing. We had a small team. I worked side by side with a marketing strategist and the two of us. So that's how I learned about marketing, by working with that person. And we were the leads. We were like the VPs of the whole title. And then we would work with the rest of the in-house team as well as agencies all over, making sure both sides of the coin were taken care of. And that taught me so much of seeing that. So now that if I go in anywhere, I could wear both hats and I could go in and be both sides. And that's what I put into Maxx Strata too, both sides of that coin versus having to do one. So yes, you can do it. But here's what I would say is that I believe that AI is going to allow everybody to show up to be better in that and whatever they're great at, because I don't think one person should own the whole thing, because I think things will fall through the crack. I still think you at least need small teams of people to focus on it and then brainstorm together. At least they'll have better conversations that are a lot more productive
Mm.
versus them fighting, my idea is better, this is that. You're really all collaborative coming together to do it. So I feel like everyone that's throwing out the fear, saying that jobs are going away, that's just where I see that AI is going to create more jobs, because they're going to be able to, once everyone gets out of this fear space and we get all the logistics around the IP to make it secure and safe and make sure everyone stops stealing and starts to really use it right, which you can do that now. You just have to have the right mindset. Then we're going to see a renaissance of that. And we've talked
Yeah.
about future thinking. Then we're going to have so much work, we're not going to know what to do, right? And I think but it's going to take another year or two, I think, for that to happen, to roll up.
I'm glad you're saying that. The pieces I've collected and connected over the last couple of years, as I've been asking and doing these interviews and on, it really feels like we're at the beginning of a renaissance with the right mental stage. And if you
Yeah.
understand it, it's interesting how we use the word fear. We understand that there's something that's changing, and most people don't like change, so they process it as fear. Where most of us listening to this call are actually entrepreneurs. It was the change that we took advantage of earlier on, and this is just another opportunity for us if we can kind of lean into it. The I do have a question about the IP piece of it, right? Because I've truly heard the terms ethical, and legal over and over again. Is there what is the IP piece that you're understanding of the ethical side or the legal side of it? And then what is this technique you're talking about where you can actually process it and not cross those lines?
Yeah, I think that, this is going to be interesting in our world, entertainment marketing. I think, depending on if somebody's doing brand marketing too, it's different because I think they have a lot more leeway. Um, I've been on webinars and learning over the last couple of years that there's thousands of people on it from around the world, right? And they are all headfirst going to town. Now, a person who does a chiropractor or they're a plumber or wherever they can use whatever they want because it's their small business and they can just tap into it and it's really great for them to be able to do that. But for those of us who are in this other whole space that we're actually creating things that no one's ever seen before. We're all about originality. We're all about innovation. If you think about how our trajectory of our careers have gone, where have we been inspired? We've been inspired by books, by other films, by other pieces of creative that have happened over the years. And we always take all of that in and then we create something new from that. So I think, however, it's all going to be formed, this is just another instrument tool for us to be able to leverage to be able to get to that. And as long as that you stay in that mindset, you're going to be able to do something original. Now, if you're all about derivative or same, or you just want to get it done and you just kind of pull in an existing look and feel, like one of my biggest pet peeves over the year, if anyone ever pitches to me again, The Last Supper as a piece of key art, or, how many times have you seen that over the years? That I'm going to like, unless that idea is so brilliant for this show, do not pitch that idea, right? So because it doesn't really have relevance in what we want to do, especially if you want to do something original. And all the, not that it's about awards, but consumers, audiences know when something is original. And if you really want it to pop and to stand out from, I mean, this is like the buzzword, the noise that's out there, then I think having to be the most original, but then something familiar and nostalgic too, that balance between the two allows it to really make a difference and an impact.
I like your thinking that there's some permission granted and some of the reality of grabbing reference and processing it. I think there is a technological difference where, if you're using Homer Simpson references to make Homer Simpson, that one's very obvious. But to use all the billions of references that have gone into something and process it, and this machine's ability to make something original doesn't feel like it's human made. So it feels like it's stealing because it feels too exact. I had to use an exact image and I'm replicating it, doing it. But what I've discovered, the original creators using these platforms are actually asking and processing some really complicated questions and doing something that looks very unique.
Yeah, and I think you just said it too. You just triggered something that it's all about the strategy and the concept that's behind it. Like there's even when we launched the tick, I don't know how many years ago that was, but we did billboards all over town and every billboard was a different saying and we customized it to like where La Cienega was. We had some really fun copy line there and we did that whole thing. But there's many other campaigns that did something and we were inspired by that and we customized it for that particular purpose. It did really well for that IP and it helped it. And it obviously was in the voice of the tick. But I think that things like that you can be inspired by. And if you have a full thinking behind how that works, then that's where the magic really starts to happen. And I think as for the IP part of it, and this is where I think there has to be a little bit more leeway within the companies. Like whenever I'm working on content right now, for if I'm a consultant and I'm working on helping somebody bring their ideas to life, and they're working in ChatGPT, I will say, because right now that's the best one to kind of the leverage a lot of the stuff, especially as it starts to get to know you, is don't give away the real title. Don't give away real data. Just get the essence of what you need from it, get the heavy work out of it, and then go offline and put in the real stuff and make it what you need it to do. So that way you're not breaking any rules or letting anything out of the bag before it needs to be let out of. And then secondly, I don't know if anyone knows this, but if you have the enterprise version of ChatGPT or even the Teams version, it is secure. So that stuff doesn't get leaked. Now the free version, it will leak and you'll use it. And you can choose the little thing that says, don't, learn from me, but not me for others. But the other one, you can actually feel a lot more secure with it. So if more companies allow that to be within their infrastructure, I think that'll be better. And then I also think that when the hardware comes out to where you can actually create your own secure LLM within your office, and that's even extra secure, right? So that adds,
Right.
those are pricey right now.
Yeah, right. Too pricey.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have to ask you about Maxx because you brought it up a couple times. It sounds to me like you've gone way beyond just using the tools, but you actually know some of the why behind it, and your agenda is somewhat to empower people to say, hey, let's actually start building something together. Here's some tools, here's some structure. How do you want people to use Maxx? Like, what is the concept and why you created it and where it's going to go?
Yeah, so everything, I don't know how many people have created their own custom chat GPTs yet, but it's a process. And I wrote every bit of it. Like I wrote, it's all my 30 years of working in this industry, I wrote. So it's my own IP. And it took me a few months to get that in a really good place. And then with the 50 beta testers, every learning that I would get from them, then I would do updates and I'd keep going. So anyone who could do what I did. So I'm not saying that I'm like an anomaly. Anyone could, but how many people really have the time? Like if you're at an agency or you're an individual contributor or you're at one of these enterprise big brands and you're trying, I know for a fact, a lot of them said, you show up, what are you great at? Use our version of our chat GPT within our LLM to be able to figure things out. They don't even know where to begin because they're all burned out, they're overwhelmed, all of this. So I can, and I am all about empowering. I mean, I would give it away if I could, but I've got to make a living, so I
Sure.
have to charge for it now. And after doing the beta testing, I feel very confident charging for it. So there's no beefs about it. And right now I'm working, trying to vibe coding it right now into a browser experience. But that's going to take a little bit longer. And I actually, if anyone on this call or listens to this podcast once it's out, is a back end developer who wants to partner with me to get that out. I'm looking for that too right now to do that full user experience. I have it already in my mind, but I need a lot of expertise because I'm not that person. I'm learning actually through this whole process that I'm a
Right.
systems person, right? And I'm like, oh, I didn't realize, and this is kind of fun, right? As well as the creative side. So that's what Maxx is. So if anyone who doesn't even know where to begin, because a lot of people are just starting, or they don't have the time to figure that, I think that that's where Maxx Strata comes into play for
And the
them.
output will be what? Like if I was a creative agency owner and I was working on Maxx, what output am I going to get? Where does that fit in my process or method?
I would say if you're having siloed groups, it's the strategy group who would leverage it, and the creative directors and the art directors who would really leverage it right out of the gate. So you literally just put in your summary. There's a couple prompts that I have in there. Your summary, basic title, and if you want to make that up, that's fine, so that people doesn't understand. Some basic audience insights, and then it will literally generate a brief within seconds based off of that little bit of info. And obviously, the more info you can put in there, the better. And then if you do have some brand pillars that are already set or some brand for the enterprise that this rolls up underneath, then you can upload those docs and incorporate that into it. It'll all process that and it'll come out with a solid brief of everything that you need. It's not one of those lame briefs that just says, this is when it's due, this is what you're doing, this is the project. It's literally, it could be anything from that kind of a brief all the way to a full 360 robust marketing brief that has all of that from brand identity all the way out to how it's going to reach customers, and it has customer insights included. And then the quads, the Maxx quad that I put in there. And then once that's out and you get that blessed and you feel like you're in a good place, if you want to include thought starters, the next part of it is like, okay, I want to start to ideate on social ideas, trailer ideas, whatever you want. And you say, I want 5 ideas, and it will literally pump out 5 ideas, write it in writing, and you have them all, and they're like, oh, that one's resonating, that one's great, because it's good to read through them, right? First,
Sure.
hear them, and then once you get that, you're like, okay, then you finesse them, you put in your spin, you take a little bit of here, a little bit of here, and then so that's the creative part where you're kind of making it your own. And then once you do that and you post it to that, then you can make a prompt that works incredible within any of the image or video text to image tools, and do a quick visual if you want that to be a part of it. And because that's not incorporated, the long term of it, hopefully that'll happen. But then it's pretty much an all-in-one to be able to get all that early stage kickoff inspiration for all of the teams that you work with.
That's so cool. Good. I might sign up just so I can do some weekly briefing promos through it. I'll give it all the
Oh
plugs.
yeah,
No, yeah. I'm just kidding.
yeah. I would
Um,
see what you come up with too.
I do feel like I don't know if you have a demo online or we should just do a demo, but maybe you can at some point do a demo and even give like some of the people on this podcast, anyone listening, just like some sort of discount code or something like that to get them to play with it. That'd be kind of cool to get some hands-on access to it.
Yeah, what I can do, I don't, do you want to send it after the people who came on, or do you want me to put it here?
Yeah, we can put it into the chat if people want
Okay,
to try that out now. And
so
then if anyone's listening and part of Rev Community, we'll post on Rev Community or put in the show notes of the podcast so people know where to find it.
so this is the Maxx landing page. All it basically is, it tells the basics of kind of what I just went over, as well as a click through to the options for the pay portal. And then this second one, I did a webinar and I mentioned that a little bit. That's on there. But then what I would say for all of y'all, what I can do is I could probably do the create Max plus 60, which you'll get your hands on the Maxx ChatGPT right now. And then you can book 60 minutes with me and we can actually do a project together. So like, let's say you have a project that you want to do right now and you don't know how to start, you don't know how to leverage this or do it. So it's worth of your time and you'll just pay for my time for it, but I can like give $100 off for that. And so I would choose, these are the two.
That's really cool. Because I also feel like it'd be nice to, if someone did the 60 minutes, they would find out what's relevant to them. Like if I did it myself, I would kind of be guessing if I don't have that experience to have you sit there for 60 minutes, show me how a project could work and make it relevant to either me as a service I could sell my clients, as a service I do internally to help my team, whatever that is, you could probably help kind of form fit it.
Yeah. And I mean, if you want, if you're just curious to see how it works, you can actually do my webinar, which is also in there. And that's also a good deal. And you get access to Max. Plus, you hear my webinar, the whole story about why strategy is so important, a deeper dive into all that. And I mean, that's also very informative. And that also goes through a demo of what Max is. So that's another way. And if you don't want to do a live thing with me, you just want to do something in your own time.
That's cool. Okay. So I'll copy these for people too. So there's some people watch this on YouTube afterwards, whatever. So I want everyone to have access to that if that's okay with you. I'll just kind
And
of
then
roll it out.
in addition to that, if you want to, if anyone's like, I'm still not sure, just email me. Here's my email. And then there's my LinkedIn too, in case folks didn't see that yet. So you have those.
Cool. So that's Max is almost like an inspiration, like the follow through for your own inspiration of what the power of the brief is, why strategy is so important, and then how it affects creative. My feeling, or I'd say my agenda is I feel like most of my clients and probably most of my audience are people that are on that creative spectrum. They're somewhere along the way. And my long-term thinking and therefore frustration is how fast people are commoditizing themselves when they're thinking about AI as a tool. They almost want to think like I'm being replaced, as if the creative process has nothing to do with the human being and it's only about execution. I think that you're recognizing sooner than later, no, you're missing out. If you're lean into this element, this part of the process, you'll see more and more how creative you are and how important you are to the process. And execution might find some efficiencies, might find different elements to it, might find a different level of scale, and your pricing with your client might change because of that. But really the creative person is still very, very viable and important in this process.
So important. And to be honest, the people who have thrived using Maxx Strata are the creatives, the ones who actually the writers, the creative directors who have a writer's mentality, and then the creative directors who really weren't writers, but then they are starting to see the magic of how a really great prompt is and how to start to leverage. So it's teaching them that now that they really didn't have to kind of do that muscle before. So I think that those are the two areas that I'm seeing. Now, those who were focused more on the money or the business side of it, they're struggling a little bit with it still. They think they can do it all, but all they think about is the money, which is a blocker, right? To me, and this is again one of the things I learned at Amazon, is you always have to think about the audience or the customer and work backwards from that. And then that way you are creating that emotional hook, that emotional experience that gets them excited, that creates that FOMO or gets them, builds that anticipation or whatever it might be to get them to want to tune in or to find out more or to spread or share it with a friend or whatever it might be. And then when you're talking about products, it's the same thing. You want to make it feel like it's something that they can't live without, right? So it's that kind of mentality. And I think that's all rolled up within it. And I think a lot of creatives just want to do the execution. Like, if you think about it on LinkedIn or on any of the socials, it's the visuals that get the most likes, especially the videos, right? And they're playing and but does any of those really have solid strategy behind them yet? Not really. It's just play. It's just they're like parlor tricks. I did a lot of that in the beginning. And I'm like, you know what? I want to be able to use this for real. And I want it to really be something and I think that takes a little bit longer and a lot more expertise to be able to do that.
I love that you're saying that. We like to often set people straight when they're building content and any kind of strategy that because you're a creative person, you almost have a bias to what you're making is the most important thing, the pretty pixels or whatever. And although that qualifies you and sometimes qualifies some people different than others because the creative execution is important, but starting with what does not work because you start with what and then the why, who, where, how, whatever is just a byproduct of it. But if you start with the why and then you know who, then you really know where. And if you know where, then you know what's relevant to that where. So because I know it's a 16-year-old girl on TikTok is such a different need for content creation, format, process, attention span than it's a 35-year-old male on ESPN. Like it totally makes a difference. So if you just thought like this really pretty amazing thing, and you have to realize, yeah, but the thing you're making relates to people. That's the relationship to people is the most important aspect of the content you're creating. Of course, the audience size is a key element to it.
Yeah,
So starting with strategy, starting with briefing really kind of sets that order straight and therefore gives you more more benefit, more wins really on the back end.
And I actually think, because and a lot of creators may take that personal because they're like, wait a minute, why am I special in this process? But they are even more special in that because whatever they're really great at, they're able to then sift through. They have the I call it a playground versus parameters or guardrails because it just feels so much more fun. And you have that playground in which you get, but you can do so much within that playground, right? At least you know what you're going to be playing in, and then you can put in whatever your expertise is, and that's where the creatives come into play. That if you're really looking for excellence or looking for innovation, that you're able to kind of raise the bar there. And I think the other thing is that, like I mentioned in the beginning, is like they're going to be able to get to flow faster versus having to be in that churn and that struggle and at NBC I kept saying I feel like I'm having babies every single time. I mean that's how painful some of those processes were, and then now knowing that I have this, that is all out of the way and you really get to that flows and get to those really cool ideas and concepts.
Well, 250 or 215, I can't remember what the number was that you did at NBC. Can you imagine how much easier it would have been to have 215 babies? Like it was.
Yeah, it was 250 at NBC and another 100 at Prime Video or Amazon.
Yeah, right. That's a
Yeah.
lot of labor. Let's just say that
Yes.
to get rid of that would be really, really great.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm anybody want to ask a question, feel free to kind of raise your hand or just chime in or whatever. I don't want to be the one hogging all this conversation, but Val, I could really kind of start to see where the rubber's hitting the road. For the last couple of weeks, I've been kind of moving beyond the toy and into the tool kind of evolution. That's what I've been saying. Like we're beyond toy, now we're moving towards tool. The tools aren't necessarily clear. They're more and more clear for people like you that are actually putting some of your knowledge and experience into a chatbot, be able to get some output that actually converts to real working evidence. That's really awesome. But it seems like the adoption stage is just beginning.
Yeah, I'm actually starting to see it just lift. I would say over the last month. Before, I was like, oh my gosh, it's going to be such a long ride before anyone welcomes me into their fold because I talk about it so much and I'm so passionate and excited about it. They're like, how long is it going to take? And then with the reports that came out yesterday or today, I don't know if anyone follows the newsletter superhuman.ai. It's one of my favorite ones, and they highlighted it, but I heard it in some other places too, that even MIT, and this is part of the fluff and the stuff that they put out there, but they even said that AI adoption is a lot slower than they anticipated. And I think the Census Bureau put out some stuff too. But those are just more fear tactics. And to me, I haven't dove deep into those articles just yet. But my guess is because they're just not using it fully yet. If they're only using Copilot, because that's what you're stuck using at your enterprise, that is not anywhere near how great what you could do with the full use of it. And then I heard a futurist speaking, and I wish I can remember his name. It's probably not fair of me to even bring this up, but right now I'm here. But he was talking about LLMs are probably going to go away within the next year or two, and there's going to be something even more
Yeah.
amazing that but it's going to be so the point of part of that is that being agile, and but if you know how it works now, it's going to make it so much easier when we get to that next, and there is going to be more an all-in-one type of situations to where you can get things done.
The LLM space feels very much like the HTML space. It just was the code you had to put into it to get any execution, but it was not digital marketing yet. You know what I mean? Like the back in the spectrum of the internet, it just wasn't yet evolved where you can actually do marketing on the quote unquote internet. It just was the code part of it. I'm with you. I feel like the trend is building so much faster. The term I've been using is um, future native content. This thing's going to make its own type of ability to make content, and it's going to be something that we've never seen before. I'm kind of curious. Right now, I feel like we're taking replicas of current content. Oh, it can replicate it, but it's not
Correct.
future native yet.
Yeah, and
Or native to the platform.
there's already tools out there that can generate videos and statics and campaigns and all of it, and they're pretty great, but
Yeah.
they're not great for what we do, you know.
But they're only
And
just replicating what we do. They're not
correct,
actually making anything incredibly
original,
unique. It's just making what we make, but faster. That's
correct.
just such as early stage
Yeah,
adoption of technology. It's when it breaks through to something we could never touch, either in scale, which I don't know if that's going to be the winning part, or creative execution. But a human's going to empower that breakthrough. It's going to be amazing when it happens. Can't
yeah,
wait for what that moment should look like. I
yes.
think that's where you see it's going to be the renaissance. You're like, you don't get it. There's going to be such strong creative tools at your disposal. The most creative people are going to win easily, and get rid of some of the restrictions we currently have with just understanding of technology or access to certain, abilities that we just financially wouldn't have the ability to do it, or corporately not have the people around us to make that happen.
Yeah, and just to lean into on all the tech bros, they feel like they can now do what they've never been able to do before, and that's why it's been so loud and why it's so much like hype out there. But when you really start to utilize, you see what's possible, what's not yet, but the innovation is going to come when the collaboration happens between the tech folks and the real creative folks to be. And not saying they're not creative, but the if to do what we need to do in our world, because that's why I love what Lionsgate is doing, what Netflix is doing. I know Amazon's in early stages of it too. They're a lot more quiet about kind of what they're doing on the inside. So it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next
Amazing.
year or so.
Anybody have any questions or thoughts? Anything I missed before I jump off?
Was this
Val?
interesting to everybody? I'd love to know that.
Yeah. Well, you've kept the audience here. That's pretty amazing. And the people that jumped off early are saying thank you. So you know that you've got really hit the mark. I feel like you're pulling us towards the future. You're giving us more understanding, stronger insights of what's available. And my favorite part is even considering something that many of us haven't had access to or know that's part of our journey, the brief, the strategy, some of us are really just, again, so far down the chain, all that's been worked out and we're only on the execution side. And if you just stay there, that commoditization is just going to really, really ramp you down. There's not going to be any ability to survive except for at scale. So to
Yeah.
give people tools, access, and knowledge to move themselves further up the chain, do something, absorb some of the quality understanding and needs that your clients have, so you can be part of that bigger conversation, is just huge. It just moves everybody up and graduates everybody up the channels.
Yeah, it totally is. And if anyone too, because I know everybody's at different stages. I've also partnered with Kate Cook, and has this E7 process to where anybody who is ready to onboard their team, we partner together to go in to be able to get them ramped up and ready, using whatever it is that they're allowed to use in their space, and get them excited about it, so they're not starting from scratch and having to fully. And we're more about teach people how to fish versus doing it for them. And I think this is a lot more of a very organic way to get them ramped up. So it feels, because we've both been in it and we understand it and we can get them going. So that's the kind of the other consulting stuff that I'm doing, in addition to trying to getting these products out in the world.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so if people want to get a hold of you, we have your email address, we have your LinkedIn. You can just hit you up directly. That's really great. We will put some of the other information you posted here onto, if you're part of Rev community, we'll just put that into the discussion forum and in the description when we put the replay up there. But we'll also put it in the YouTube channel. I don't know. I'll talk to you about if you want to put the discount codes out there on for public to be seen, or just want to keep it private, so we can work through that.
Okay.
If anybody has any questions, I'd say, Val, you seem to be an open book and very excited to talk about this thing. So more opportunities than not, you'd give people to process with you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I am definitely, I think that's probably my Achilles heel is I'm too open sometimes, but anything I can do to be helpful is really where I'm coming from.
Yeah, thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
And thanks for jumping on this. Thanks for
Yeah,
joining us.
this
I'm
has been
excited.
so much
More,
fun.
yeah, pretty fun, huh?
Yeah.
And there's going to be more to come. I know that you and I have been kind of picked out to be part of different conferences and have some conversations. So we'll be sharing a stage, if not sharing a green room together in the
Yeah.
near future, I know. So
Yeah,
I'm excited about that.
I am too. That's going to be great.
Thank you again. And thanks everyone for listening in. I love this once a week time. We get to break away and kind of ask the bigger questions. So people like Val and others. So everyone just kind of thank Val, give her a thumbs up or a thank you as you wrap things up.
Thanks,
And
y'all.
Val, we'll see you soon.
Yeah.
Can't wait to meet you more face to face and collaborate a little bit more. So we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. Very good. All right. Bye,
Uh,
y'all.
Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.